What to know about the Missouri Medical Marijuana Program and what to consider when choosing your caregiver. Hi, I'm Dawn Abernathy, also known as Dawn the Cannabis Advocate. As a patient advocate, I help patients navigate their process of becoming certified and approved patients in the state of Missouri. I help with the full process of pre-qualification consultations and the full application submission process, as well as consulting patients on how to navigate their health care for themselves and their families moving forward. In order for you to confidently move forward in your medical cannabis journey, I provide an individualized assistance in learning what you need to know. This is a detailed overview of what I've shared with hundreds, likely thousands of patients in the state of Missouri to date. I want you to know how amazing this program can be for you and those closest to you to become self-sufficient and grow your own clean medicine. It's a lot of info, so let's jump right in, starting with some basics and grow from there. We're going to review the following topics. What are the expectations, A, of you the patient, and B, of the caregiver? Medicine options with your cultivation possibilities. Choosing and negotiating your relationship with your caregiver. What happens when or if you need to end the relationship with the caregiver. Maintaining a healthy patient-caregiver relationship. What are the expectations of you the patient? As a patient, you're responsible for understanding. As a certified and state-approved patient, you're allowed 2 caregivers, aged 21 years or older. Of the 3 of you, only 1 person is allowed to grow your medicine for you at any one time. With your signed authorization form submitted by the caregiver and approval from the Department of Health and Senior Services Medical Marijuana Program. Minor patients, qualifying patients under the age of 18, must have a parent or legal guardian submit supporting documentation as a part of the patient's online application declaring to be the minor's caregiver immediately upon approval. The parent or legal guardian will also need to submit a separate caregiver application upon the minor patient's approval. What can a caregiver do for me as their patient? Go to the dispensary on your behalf or accompany you while you're in the dispensary. Transportation of your medicine from the dispensary and or from your home cultivation location to you. Prepare, infuse, extract, or roll cannabis material for consumption by you. Handle transportation to dispensaries for the destruction of medicine upon the patient's transitioning off the program or upon passing away. If the caregiver is also approved for home cultivation, for the patient, they are allowed to do all the above as well as grow 6 plants in 3 stages. That's 18 plants just for you. What are you allowed to have in your possession or on your person at any time? 2 months worth of medication per your standard physician certification allowance of 4 ounces gives you 8 ounces of flour or its equivalency in concentrates. Patients approved for dosage increases fall under the same rule regardless of the monthly allowance amount. How much are you allowed to have from the dispensary per month? With a standard certification, 4 ounces in a 30-day period. Patients are eligible for dosage increases with 2 physician certifications with the increased dosage amounts per update and an approval from the state. Some patients can have severe complex medical issues and need a lot of flour recommended for them from the dispensary in a month. Justifying a dosage increase to your certifying physicians can be as simple as keeping a cannabis dosing journal and providing it for review by the dual certifying physicians to evaluate your actual monthly flour allowance amount. Of the 2 new recommendations, the state will only approve the lower of the 2 recommended by both physicians. How much are you able to have in your home? To my knowledge, you're allowed up to 3 months worth of medication in your home. This is why journaling to get factual dosage increases will save you a headache on supply compliance. How much is able to be grown for you by your cultivating caregiver? You're allowed to have grown for you up to 6 plants in 3 growth stages. That's 6 mature flowering, 6 vegetative non-flowering, and 6 clones or seedlings per patient. As a patient that's also a cultivating caregiver, you may have up to 72 plants in your home in total. There are placement and security guidelines to abide by as well. What's our expectations of the caregiver? Please understand, before drying and curing this medicinal plant that can take anywhere from 4 to 8 months just to grow. As your caregiver, there is a cost to having to monitor and grow your medicine and in agreeing to add this responsibility into their lives. Now, this needs to be compensated on a pre-agreed upon format. The amount and frequency for both the patient's needs and to satisfy the caregiver's financial impact in doing this service for you as the patient needs to be considered. Be forewarned. Paying a fee before receiving any medicine from a new caregiver is a realistic factor to deal with for some time. This is an investment into healthy, clean medicine specifically for and directly to you. You are not buying cannabis from your caregiver. You are not buying cannabis from your caregiver. You are not buying cannabis from your caregiver. You are compensating your caregiver for the services rendered in expertise, housing, growing, harvesting, and supplying you with an agreed or agreeable amount and frequency of your medical cannabis. Now, the most difficult part of this conversation: how much will it cost? Investing into a successful, regular, occurring harvest will include the offset amount of increased electricity, land ownership or agreement of the landlord, grow equipment, growth medium, containers, etc. to grow this plant. All these things cost. Let's go over a few things needed for a simple to moderate successful home grow, like your light system. Quality lights bring large harvests. Tents. Sterilization and quarantining will be important as you grow various strains to maturity. AC, HVAC, ventilation setup, and maintenance. A built-in system or a portably set up system is still something to consider. Increasing utility bills. Electricity, natural gas, water, sewer, trash, mortgage, or the rent in some allowed cases need to be compensated to a satisfactory amount for the benefit of both parties in this relationship. Hydroponics, aquaponics, live soil, compost, nutrients, pest control measures, grow equipment, growing bags, growing pots, troughs, caging, canopy structure supports, irrigation systems, thermometers, dehumidifiers, fans, testing equipment, and processing costs. There are times when the flower being grown should be tested for mold, mildew, pests, and potency are advised. Expertise. Successful cultivating caregivers have taken time to learn how to grow this plant best, and this expertise is priceless. From self-taught experience to extensive college and university education, all across this spectrum are valid and valuable education foundations for your caregiver to grow your medicine best for you. Their investment into their own personal education base is something that should be given value to. And time. This person will be living with your plants to yield you the best harvest, and that takes one thing that is not replaceable: time. And as the most valuable commodity we all share, you have to compensate that person's time. Now add those factors up and divide it per day for a year to grow your 6x3 plants for a year. This is your investment. Spending hundreds of dollars weekly is not out of the ordinary or unheard of. I encourage patients and caregivers to barter if possible to put a break on the cost if skills or comparable services are available. Sweat equity into your own medicine may be something to consider if you have not before. Medicine options with your cultivation possibilities. These are several different administration methods that can be created by either the patient and or the caregiver. But this is based on the caregiver's expertise and offerings during negotiations. Some patients may want to work with their flower from the moment it's dried and ready, and there are some that will prefer to have a boutique dispensary relationship with their caregiver. These are premium items that must be created by the caregiver, so this will require additional compensation to support the caregiver manufacturing these items, such as cookables, infused tinctures, infused oils like coconut, grapeseed, avocado, sweet almond, olive, butters, sugars, and salts, topicals, infused moisture bases like hemp, coconut, grapeseed, avocado, and shea butter, edibles, ready to eat or ingestible items such as infused cooked dishes, meals, candies, snacks, baked goods, and beverages, for example, smokables, pre-rolled joints, pre-rolled blunts, rosin, live rosin, resin, moon rocks, hash, other medical administration options like raw fan leaves for juicing, dry stems for drinking and bath tea blends, oral administration tinctures, vaginal and rectal suppositories, and syringes of FECO or full extract cannabis oil, or also known as Rick Simpson oil, for example. Choosing and negotiating your relationship with your caregiver. You can choose anyone to be your caregiver. It can be your spouse, significant other, adult child, parent, or loved one, or a complete stranger that is qualified and found to be of good character to provide you the best medicine they can and grow it in their available space, be over 21 years old, and a Missouri resident with an available slot as one of their 3 allowed patients. How you may be acquainted with them may provide some level of comfort, but sitting down to discuss your establishing relationship is the most transparent and effective way to begin this process. I feel some of the most important points to remember when sitting down with your caregiver are discussing your beginning, the middle, and possible end of your patient-caregiver relationship up front. This conversation has to be very frank and honest so that the structure you both agree upon is able to be maintained. When discussing your beginning of your relationship, here are some things to review. Where will it be grown? Do you own your home but need the caregiver to grow it at your home, a possible barter situation, or will they be able to legally grow it at their own home? Who's responsible for the caregiver's annual stay fees when application is being submitted and annually, patient or caregiver? Who's responsible for choosing and obtaining the genetics? Is the patient choosing and the caregiver finding? The patient doing both, the caregiver doing both? Who's responsible to buy and provide any and all equipment when the relationship is established? Is there an agreement of patient reimbursement for the caregiver over time for this equipment? Who in fact owns the equipment needed? How much compensation is needed to start growing? How soon can growth begin after the first agreed upon payment? Are there any opportunities to barter to reduce the out-of-pocket cash cost of the patient? How often would this compensation amount be provided by the patient to cover cultivation costs? How soon and how much medicine is estimated to be available to a patient with optimal growth conditions? If the caregiver is experienced enough to offer premium items, how much additional for premium items? When discussing the middle of your relationship, here are some things to review. Who's responsible for daily attention and maintenance? Who's responsible for ensuring defoliation, sanitation, and pest control is maintained? Who's responsible for transporting medication once ready for pickup or delivery? Who's responsible for maintaining communication on quality of growth and updating on overall progress and expectations of yield? Who is responsible to harvest, dry, cure, and trim flower for patient use? When discussing possible end of your relationship, here are some things to review. In the event the caregiver's own health declines and cannot cultivate for the patient, who is responsible to retrieve available medication and owned equipment? Who owns the equipment obtained, as discussed previously when the relationship started? In the event the patient passes away from a certifying terminal condition or unexpectedly, who will be responsible of the 2 possible caregivers to take available medication to a state-licensed dispensary for destruction? Does the deceased patient own any of the equipment from the cultivation? Who is responsible for providing owned equipment of the deceased being turned over to the next of kin? In the event this relationship becomes inappropriate for either party, you can contact the Department of Health and Senior Services and immediately dismiss the caregiver from your service. Delinquency on compensation payments, becoming verbally or physically abusive to the other party, sexual harassment, stalking, threats of violence, withholding plant material to sell or give to other patients are just some of the reasons, to name a few. We discussed the negative possibilities beforehand so that this hopefully can be possibly avoided. But this can still happen. You may lose your full investment if you have not prepared for it from the start. This is why this negotiation process is vital. Be prepared for possible full harvest losses and some extreme occurrences. What happens when or if you need to end the relationship with the caregiver? Depending on the circumstances, you have the more passive option of just not renewing your care with this person when it's time to renew their caregiver card. If it is urgent, you can email Department of Health and Senior Services Medical Marijuana Department immediately to notify them that you want or need to dismiss this person from caring for you. At the current time, the call center for the department is closed until further notice. Always make sure to notify Department of Health and Senior Services by email to have written correspondence of your request to dismiss, and if applicable, report the caregiver for inappropriate use of their cultivating caregiver approval. You can dismiss your caregiver on good terms or on bad terms, but either way, you have the power to do it. Maintaining a healthy patient-caregiver relationship. Clear communication, consistency, and compensation can go a long way in any caregiving relationship. As the patient, you have to know how much medicine you really need on a regular basis to treat the various conditions and administration methods you choose in your personal medical cannabis therapy. Then you have to maintain your budget to compensate your caregiver regularly. Realistically, look at the amount of money you've been spending to get from the underground market and convert that into paying directly to your own boutique dispensary that your caregiver can become just for you. If you're primarily a smoker, then you don't need a lot of premium items and you're just waiting on flower harvest to medicate with. If you're a patient that uses infusions and edibles, you're waiting on harvest plus your caregiver to manufacture your requested items. If you're a patient that's strictly on fecal or RSO therapy, how much yield do you need for a patient to have up to 2 months worth of doses at one time? This is one of the most volatile of items to manufacture as a caregiver, so extra care is necessary. So to wrap up, now that we've gone over the major points of the program that I review with any patient or caregiver I encounter, I hope that you have a few more tools in your toolbox in helping you choose and maintain a healthy relationship with your future caregiver. I encourage you to learn as much as you can from your caregiver about how to grow your own medicine so that one day you can release your amazing caregiver to help someone else and you take on growing your own and maybe even growing for your own patients too.